Hello, everyone. Once again, my mini-me is not here. Hi, Tyler, we miss you. But what I will promise you is that this episode is like no other. So welcome to
the Because I Said So podcast.
These two amazing women to my left and to my right have had me laughing literally for the last hour. So I want to introduce this beautiful young lady here, Keyonne Campbell, and her beautiful mother, Mrs. Campbell, but we're going to call you for the show Nateal. All right. So ladies, before we get into our topic, just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I am, as she said, Keyonne. I am the sister of 7 siblings. Raised in Denver, Colorado, raised with my mom and dad. And I am currently a realtor in the Baltimore area. I'm also licensed in Georgia. I hail from the University of Colorado, Boulder, Colorado.
Yes.
Go Buffaloes. And I've had a background working with people, nonprofit world, dealing with people, and I traveled quite a bit in my life. That's a little bit about me.
Okay, my name is Nateal Campbell, and I'm retired. Technically, I've worked as a social worker, counseling children, and a lot of my background is ministering and counseling, and I'm just happy to be on the show. And I also have a football background. My son is Campbell, and I have a lot of experience traveling and just seeing most of the world. So,
and she's amazing. And Keyonne has allowed me to adopt her as my mom as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
She actually gave her to me. I don't know if I should say that to you, because she said that much.
She's yours,
but she gave it to me. She's like, Stephanie, can you call your mom? She's acting up.
Yes.
So what we have like several topics that we're going to talk about, but what we really wanted to, really touch on first, and I'm going to start with you, is, as women become wives, mothers, we tend to lose ourselves, right? We either get engulfed in, the relationship with the children, with the husband. How or what advice would you have for other women on how not to lose yourself and to create those boundaries up front?
Okay, yes, I feel that having your children shouldn't stop you from being who you are as an individual. But a lot of times, like myself, I have 8 children, raised 8 children, and I didn't take the time maybe to go to the spa or get my hair done more often, or basically do a lot of things that I wanted to do. And the children pretty much was always with me, a lot of the small children. And I think as a parent, and to a lot of the mothers out there, I would like to say, take time for yourself. If it's just 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And one story I've told, the kids were like really coming after me after I came home from work one day, working an 8-hour shift. And I was like, oh my God, I felt so enclosed. So I went and shut up in the bathroom for 5 minutes.
Oh, I've had many of those where you're like, can I just sit in peace?
Right. I literally, I told this story a couple of times, I literally feel that 5 minutes in the bathroom did me like wonders from my mind, at that time. And so I tell every parent, you need a few minutes a day. So if you can get somebody maybe to help you with the kids or do something, work it out. Just give yourself that extra time because it'll pay off later.
Yeah, pamper yourself as well. You said pamper, take care of yourself.
Yes, of course. And between church and raising the kids and my husband, it was a lot. It was like Superwoman and working a full-time job.
I think
so
women are
you got
expected
to take that time. So
whether women are expected oftentimes, mothers, to be that Superwoman, held it down on so many different levels, from the work front, business front, to the wife front, to the mother front, that if you can't balance, we need to figure out a way to not have to have that expectation that you can balance every single thing that you do and give yourself the number one priority time. Of course, with your children, you're going to need to have you have to give your kids what they need, but having some one-on-one time with yourself is probably the number one priority of it all. And if you, as a person looking not as a mother, but as a person who outside in, if I didn't take 15 minutes to myself to either journal, write, meditate, find some kind of something that's going to give me solitude, some peace of mind, then how would I function with the rest of my day and making it work? So I would be hopeful that a mother or a wife would find a way, a businesswoman or just a person working in the workforce would find a way to just give themselves that 15 minutes of just them, like, let me feel my insides and my regurgitate, like have that whole soulful moment. I guess I'm gonna call it a soulful moment.
And it's amazing, right? You said 5 minutes, you said 15. It doesn't matter, right? The timing, it's just finding that happy place for yourself. And you'd be surprised how many mothers don't do that, right?
Yeah.
But I want to come back to you and just touch on one word you said, expectations, right? We were having a conversation earlier where, you know, we were talking about how children, but we'll say daughters for now, because this is what's here in front of us, their expectations of you. Do you think it's realistic as a child, not now, but think of the different phases that you two have encountered. Has there ever been a situation where you thought her expectation of you was just unrealistic, or it did not line up with what you want?
Yes, we were talking about this earlier, and my daughter was working a summer job during school, and I was not feeling well that day, and I remember her, this is giving an example, and I was always picking her up afterwards, and this one particular day, I couldn't come or didn't feel well enough to really go pick her up, but I know that the bus, all I should do was step a few feet from her job and get on the bus that took her directly there. And the bus made a couple of stops along the way, but being 15 or 16, you know, she could handle a bus ride one time, right?
Midnight.
It was a midnight, but that's for me.
She said don't put her business in the street. She ain't say what time. She said you were at work and you had to get on the bus. Go ahead, Bob.
Right.
Expectation.
Well, expectation. She was expecting, and I didn't realize until later after she got grown, that one time is the only time she remembers of all the times that I was there. And so expectations is a good word to use, because I did not know that one incident caused such a deep emotional.
It was good that nothing happened to me that time, but I feel like any person would not want to put their child, their vulnerable daughter, on the streets, you know, at midnight, right? I didn't put myself in that circumstance. I was working a job, contributing to the household, and all those things, and I just felt like as a mother, you would want to see that your child was safe and sound and that they would be good to go. And in this instance, it wasn't a one-time thing, because I think I missed the last bus, or there was a point where I was taking the bus home. That was my normal route, because I was working on a frequent basis, and it wasn't all the time that she would pick me up. But it was a situation where I needed my mother, I wanted my mother, and I wanted to rely on her, and she was just not gonna give that to me. And it wasn't, and maybe I have to look at the aspect that maybe there were other children at home, but I'm sure they were asleep, or whatever the case may be. She just was not going to, I couldn't rely on her to come and save me in that moment. And I got home and I made it home okay, but it was an expectation that I could rely on my mother, and I learned at an early age that was not something that I can do. And so that's
how I think you're feeling, but for all the kids out there or people out there, if your parent is sick or something's going on one time,
I'll give you that. It wasn't a one-time thing
don't
for
hold
me
that
to feel
against
that way.
your parents, because
That's a good point. And I think that for me as a mother is one of the things that I would like to, you know, stress, right, to our viewers, is that sometimes, and again, I could definitely see your point of view and yours. And I think at the end of the day, right, sometimes we just want what we want. We don't care what's happening in your life or what you're doing.
Right. I understand that.
And as children, it's like, should they care, right? You know, there's so many topics and conversations about, you know, what we should expect of our children and hold them accountable. But I think at the end of the day, right, it's a situation where, did you have that same expectation of your father?
I did, and I felt
Okay.
that if I relied on my dad, my father was somebody I knew I could rely on.
Okay.
There was never a question of like, if he was gonna go out of his way to make sure I was good. With my mom, I felt like, I remember leaving something at home and I was like, Mom, can you bring it to the school? She was not the person that was gonna bring it for you. So he was just not gonna have it.
Neither am I.
And that's what it is, right?
Let me tell you.
So that's just what it is. And you learn and you adapt. There's nothing wrong with it. But it wasn't just in that situation, it just changed how that. Like, I understood, like I said early on, it wasn't just that one situation, it's just that one situation that kind of was like, okay, this is what I'm getting. So, and I just knew that. It doesn't make me love my mom less, it just made me go in a different direction and learning about independence. And that's it. And it was just, it's a situation that to this day as an adult, I understand that there's certain things that I can rely on. If I'm sick, I'm gonna call my mom, she's gonna give me some remedies, she's gonna do this. But if there's some things I need somebody to do for me, may not be able to ask her.
I think that varies. If you're sick, your parents gonna be there. Something like maybe riding the bus home one time, 10 miles. Like
She said it was once.
It was the idea that I made it through it, so I'm not gonna. And I don't want to keep giving.
And you are a stronger person.
Yes, for it, and that's what it is. And I just remember being like, just the whole atmosphere is like feeling like, gosh, like I wish I had my mom.
Yeah.
Because people are on the bus talking about, like, looking at me like, this young girl is riding a bus by herself in this inner city streets of Denver like this, and I had to walk from the 5 Points. I had to walk to the house, which is another like 15-minute walk, and so it was just like, it was late. It was
of course,
and I get it, but here's the thing: no love lost. It's just the idea that was when I learned that, and there's been many instances where I can't rely on. And my expectation was that I could rely on you, but it doesn't fit with that. I could not rely the same way as I would like to have hoped and had an expectation of. That's it.
well, I look at all the other kids that were working at this particular recreation center or whatever it was called. It was an amusement park.
Yes.
A lot of them rode the bus every day, and my sons worked there too. And they managed to get home
years later, and they lived in a different place, and they had a car. So the dynamics were different, but yeah.
But I think this topic is important because so many kids or people feel that my mother or father should have did more for me.
Yes.
And you gotta realize that they're human beings.
Amen.
And they got a life going on.
I
Amen.
absolutely agree with this.
And so I know that you wasn't in danger.
How did you know that though?
I knew that because
How did you know that?
numerous of kids
Keep
were
your
riding that
hands
same
on you,
bus.
girl. She's praying for you.
Because really,
First of all,
you took a
it
chance.
was a group of kids
Mom, it was
that, let me finish. It was a group of
How she
kids
know this?
that
She know
actually
this?
rode that
Wait,
bus.
how do you figure this?
How many kids have worked there previous?
How many are getting off at 12 o'clock at night that go live where I live?
We gotta look this up because you keep saying midnight.
So
Is it really midnight?
the park closed about 10. By the time it was like 10:30. By the time we finished up, it was like another 30, 45
That's
minutes.
true.
By the
Yeah,
time we get to
clean
the
up.
bus,
Yeah, that's true. That's
it was
true.
definitely midnight.
I really feel
But
in
it's
my
okay,
heart
I can talk
that I've been a good mother. And,
That's interesting.
And that my other children might not feel the way she does,
Well,
right?
I'm sure they all have something though, right? Because I feel like your personality is your personality. You've got great qualities. Just, I think that certain things people can't expect, right? But you will, so it doesn't take away, like your expectation changes. So I will say this, I think that children get disappointed by their parents the most when the parents let them down for something, whatever it is. They have an expectation that their parents are going to be this, that, and the other. And when they don't meet that, the children then come to some level of disappointment and maybe even dislike or whatever. But that's typical because we have the innate, we love our parents. Like, unless something traumatic or drastic happens or they're distant from us, we love our parents. There's no reason not to love our parents. It's when the parents do something that disappoints us or makes us just something that doesn't meet our expectation that we can start to, that level of love kind of might diminish in some level. I'm not saying I don't love you the same. I'm just saying it's just a different dynamic, and I understood that. But I also understand the idea that you know how I looked at that? Honestly, I looked at it, you were being lazy, and you didn't feel like getting up to come get your child.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
But I might think you might be lazy about things.
But working an 8-hour job.
You were not working 8 hours that
Yes,
day.
I was.
You're making an excuse
I've always worked.
for your child being on the
that.
street. If I
You feel on the street, Keyonne.
if, let me put it this way. If I ended up missing, would you have cared about it?
Well, anyway, I think you guys kept your money basically when you worked at the recreation center or the amusement park center. But basically, 8 children. I'm exhausted
Can I
from
say
working
something?
an 8-hour job.
You wanted to have 8 children. That was a choice you made. So you
You
use
just
that
wanted
often.
them.
You use it often as an excuse. And I hear that and I'm thinking that's great and wonderful. But it wasn't like it was a burden. Somebody gave you 8 children. You chose to have 8 children.
I can see this if I did this numerous times because first of all, I didn't have to pick you up.
But I don't want us to be like solely about that one incident because
Yeah.
it really wasn't about that incident in particular. But it's just the idea.
But you got a great point because so many people feeling like you probably. Mama let me down one
Oh my
time.
God, my children feel that as well.
Yeah.
But you know what? But it's in. So I will say, right, that I feel, this is my opinion, that children have different expectations for their mother and their father, and rightfully so, right? They're 2 different people. But like I used to tell my children all the time, you put daddy on a shelf and you know, ask him for things every now and then, and if he doesn't do it, it's like, oh, okay. But you ask mommy and she doesn't do it, oh my God, the world comes to an end, right? So I do believe, and this is just my opinion, and you know, in speaking to different mothers, that children have an unrealistic expectation of their mother. They don't have that same thing of their father. That's just for me, in my circle. I don't know how it is for you, but
Yeah,
for me.
I feel like that is possible in many instances. I think for myself, I think that if it was the opposite, right? If I asked my dad something, he was gonna do it. If he couldn't do it, or if he didn't do it, I would probably be disappointed in that aspect. With my mom, I'm at the point now where like there's so many things I know she's gonna be able, and maybe she's just not capable of some of the things that I have. And she has a lot of children, so I have to realize that's a lot of people with a lot of demands. I understand that. Same for my dad. Like a lot of people, a lot of demands, and so certain things are gonna they're gonna fall by the wayside. I get that part. And if you're not being able to balance yourself in your life, I understand it. But there's certain things that as a child, it doesn't excuse that that's gonna be their life story. It's gonna be a part of their life story that my mom had her 15-year-old daughter walking the streets of Denver by herself because my mom, as I looked at it, decided that she'd rather lay in bed and go to sleep. And you are entitled to be sleepy.
At this point, you might have to bring your father in. I mean, after all,
I mean, he wasn't there at that moment, but
we
yeah.
were, I think we were separated during that
Yeah,
time.
so he was
and
in
it was
Aurora.
more of a burden on me at that time because
You're the one in the house with the 8 kids.
exactly. He didn't take the kids with him when we
He eventually
separated.
did. He eventually did because it
But
wasn't
the
working
point
for you.
I'm trying to make basically is you're putting all this laying all this on me. How come you didn't wake him
Because
up?
your mom,
How
well,
come
he
you
was in
didn't
Aurora.
call him?
Because I had called you all day and you were like, okay, I'm coming to
I
get you because I had planned it. And then you tell me you weren't going to. Either way it goes, this is my story from my life and my mom. It doesn't change.
It sounds a little
doesn't
petty to me.
Talking about the past isn't going to change, but it's who you are to me. You're someone that I love dearly, but I know that at the end of the day, I end up being more of a mother figure in your world than you come out. I shouldn't say that. You're a mother figure in my life, but I come out. It's almost like we are sisters at times.
Ooh, and that's a good segue into the next topic, which is role reversal, right? You hear this all the time. My kids say it to me all the time, right? Where they feel like they're now the parent and they have to parent me. What are you eating? What are you drinking? Why are you wearing that? Why did you say that? Why are you doing that? And it doesn't sit well in my soul. I don't know how it feels with you, but I'm like, I don't want you to tell me, mind your business. Like, can you?
Right.
Yeah, so I think there needs to be a good balance. And so what I would love to hear from the 2 of you is how are you balancing that? Because, right, she feels that she has lived her life. She has raised 8 amazing children. And she now wants to be you.
Right. Individuality.
Yes. And so how are you balancing that in a way where you are allowing her to still have a voice?
I feel so. One of the things is she's got older children and younger children. Along the way, her older children have helped guide her with her younger children, right? And in the processes, I think we kind of taken on motherly roles. And in the process of that, we get to mothering our parent, but in particular my mom. And I think that it's fair to her only because they're showing that they care about her. But outside of that, no one's dictating, like, well, I do think in this situation, some people are dictating where she lives, where she goes. But I also think if you had a voice, and I think that might be something you lost, but if you have a voice and speak up, people can't parent you. If you're doing...
But it's hard, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, and I want you to speak for yourself, but for me, it's hard to speak up when your children have their own expectation of what your life should look like right now.
Got it.
And I think that's part
That's
of,
true.
right?
Yeah.
So what I want children to understand, just how you say to your parent, right? It's my life. Mom, I'm an adult now, right? You shouldn't be telling me. Why is it that you feel that you can now do it to me, right?
Because they need it more.
We do?
I heard,
Because I
I heard something.
Maybe not you do stuff better.
I heard
She does.
something from a friend of mine that said your young children that you're raising, I'll say under 18 and under basically, are totally different than your adult children. So as adult children, I think they have that tendency to feel that they have more opinions of what
You
you're
do.
doing, or they know you so well and don't realize you're an individual, right? They know you so well that you can't think for yourself. You can't think.
Have you gotten this one? My children hit me with this every day where I'm like, can y'all find a new line? Ma, you just don't remember. Is it that I don't remember or maybe you don't remember?
Exactly.
Like, I get it sometimes, right? I may forget something,
Right.
but not every time, right? And you
Okay.
can't use that as an excuse. So that's what I'm also facing,
Mhm.
where I feel like my children are using things against me that are not real.
I'm understanding that, but let's just say you're type 2 diabetic or whatever, and you keep knocking back the soda, knocking back the sugar. Should your children who care about you say something, or should they just let you knock them back and not say anything?
That's a good question. So, right, let's do a poll. So, we'll do a poll and see where that comes. But what do you feel?
I feel that if a person was, let's say, type 2 diabetic and they want to tell their parents what to eat after the parent been educated about whatever's going on in their life and their choices of what they should eat and not eat. I think there's a line, boundaries.
Thin line.
It's a thin line because mostly you know yourself and you're going to take care of yourself if you love yourself. You love yourself first, I think others will love you, right?
Okay.
And so you're going to take care of yourself. But when you hear that voice and you want to figure out if they for real or not, do they really love you enough to be, or are they just interfering,
Being nosy and trying to control.
Yes.
And it's almost like,
So
I'm
it's a
getting
thin
back
line.
at you, right?
It's a
Because
thin line.
sometimes I feel like that's what it is. Like, you all are trying to get back at us for what we did.
You really think
I really,
instead of
sometimes.
the genuine part, like, why are you drinking or doing this? Why can't we help you?
No, not on that
Legit-
one. I
legit-
get that.
Sometimes they're just trying to get back
Yes.
that y'all did this. So
Health, I get, right? If you're
Okay.
saying, Ma, you shouldn't, and I get it. Because my
Yes.
children do that all the time. 'Cause
Okay.
I love drinking Coke. Oh, I love
and they know that it's not good for
And
you
it's
to
not.
have.
I get it, right?
Okay.
And I love and respect every time my son Omari or daughter Tyler or son Miles are like, Ma, why are you drinking it? Miles has even gone so far as to throw it out, right?
Exactly.
So I get that. But it's other things, right,
Okay.
that sometimes show up. And it's like, are you being petty right now? Are you trying to get back at me? Or is
Now
that
that's-
really genuine?
Okay, and that's a good one. I think that in situations, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and believe that they genuinely care and they genuinely want to give you that advice to pull that. I'm just gonna say the benefit of the doubt. Why would they want to be petty? Like, they don't need to be petty.
Because everybody got a little petty in
A
them.
little bit, but I mean, when
Everybody, I got a lot of me. I ain't gonna lie. I am
You're not
petty
the only one.
queen.
You
But-
get petty, I get pettier.
What?
I think they all got an opinion.
They do, but I think that mostly when that situation occurs, it's because they actually care. I care, and that's why I'm saying what I'm saying or doing what I'm doing, and I remind you of these things.
But I think it's a limit. If you tell somebody don't eat that or don't drink that, and they decide to do it anyway,
Let them go on and have a sugar fix and pass out or nod off or whatever.
yeah, I
right?
mean it's their life.
Okay.
And you know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
But I agree with you to a certain extent, but then I also come back here because now when you pass out and sick, guess who got to take care of you?
This person.
So I see the balance, right? But to your point, there's a limit, right? Where you have to understand, everyone has to know, like, my children should know who I am, right? They know my personality, what I like, what I don't like.
Yes.
And sometimes we just want you to exercise that, right? The way you want us to exercise it. So where you don't want mommy to interfere in your life or your love life or relationships or finances or whatever, you know, sometimes for me, again, I'm not going to talk for you, I'll let you speak next, but for me, it's like, I'm still human, I'm still an individual, and sometimes I do feel that my children are doing it to kind of get back at me.
Okay. Well,
I do.
Okay.
I
And
do.
I can see that part. Like my mom thinks we get in her love life. We don't get in her love life.
Ooh, speaking of love life.
My mom, who is single, she's widowed, but she's single and she's open to dating. And she thinks that her children, I believe I've heard her say this, her children prevent her from dating. And I'm like, why? Your grown children wouldn't want to hinder you
No,
from
it
dating.
goes back to how you feel like you got to take time for yourself. You guys are grown now and on your own. And so whatever I do now is basically decisions that I want to make. If I want to go cruising with my
You
boyfriend,
should.
husband /
You
husband,
should.
I think that's a great idea. I don't need anyone to sort of set that up or make that happen.
Oh, to push you in. Okay. That's true.
But I think as adults, you thinking differently, you know, now. You're not a kid anymore. So you're talking like adults now. And so I don't think that you should interfere, like you were saying, all the time.
And what
Because
regard?
people do have their own life,
Oh, absolutely.
you know.
I mean, but just like you as a parent, you're gonna, even though you have adult children, you're going to interfere in their life. That's just your nature.
No, I heard something for that. If your child asks you a question and wants your opinion, then you give it. But if you give them your opinion all the time, they're gonna not listen as well.
I'm struggling
Do
with
you
that.
give your opinion all the time or you don't?
No, I'm just saying that is food
Okay, I'm
for
glad you
thought.
heard that. I'm glad you heard that.
That's food
Well, we
for thought.
struggle with that, right? Because it's like, when do we cut that off? When do we stop giving the advice? When do we stop interfering? When do we, because just like you said with the health, and you came back and said, well, I'm the one that has to take care of you. She's feeling the same way, right? If I don't interfere with your finances, guess where you come in to ask for money? If I don't interfere, I'm just saying
Right,
in general,
yes,
right?
yes.
If I don't interfere with the relationship that you're getting ready to, you know, fall flat on your face, guess who you're coming to cry to? So I think it's both sides, right?
I get that part, but it's both sides. We have to have the balance of, okay, I'm gonna know I interfere just enough to make sure that they get that I'm here for them, I support them, but I need them to hear this good, solid advice. Just like the child who knows their parent, knows the individual, is like, hey, I know my mom, she might be naive to this, she might not understand this, you know, whatever it is, let me make sure I give you, you know, some advice, because, not saying it's a situation, but what if she decides to get with a con man on some internet dating site? Like,
Did she put you in a prison? Wait, what? What just happened? She
I'm
just
just
put you in
saying,
a prison guard.
whatever it is, you have to make sure you have to make sure that you have given them the advice that they also need to hear, because there are times when parents need to hear something too.
Hey, let's make this clear. No prisoner sending Mama Campbell any love letters. We're good there. Thank you. We're fine.
Whatsoever. No. And
She don't need no
Well,
payback.
I have a theory about this. If I do get old and want my
I know
kids
that's right.
to
If you
help
get
me
old,
out,
go ahead.
you know, I think I'm mature enough to say, I'm not going to hold over your head and put you in a nursing home or whatever. I mean,
Oh,
a lot
I am.
of people, you might feel
Oh, my
that
God,
way,
yes.
but I feel like they got their freedom and they live in their lives. I don't
You
want
work
to
in a nursing
be
home. Okay.
a burden to them.
Okay.
But every parent out there might have, like you said, you said no,
No.
do not do that. But I'm looking at the other side of that. A lot of times they do go to nursing homes.
Okay, noted. I will
And-
make sure we send that in
But
group
wait
chat.
a minute. But you
Ma'am.
don't want your child basically, you know, like feel like they have to be there taking care of you. Now, I think it's great. It's great when you don't put your parents or family members there, but at the same token, maybe that was the best place if they were like needing tubes in their body or somebody to watch over them 24/7.
Ain't nobody about kids though, so that they can have them take care of them?
No, so I'm a firm believer, so I already have that set up. Now he has to be 6'4", chocolate, bald with pretty white teeth. But I've already told my kids, no, I'm serious.
Okay. What about a goatee?
My children will tell you, I have already set up an account, so when I get to that point, I've already paid for what I need because I'm not relying on my children, right? I don't know what, and I don't want to put that burden on them. So I'm like, all I need y'all to do is interview again 6'4", chocolate,
we need to
bald,
start the process.
well,
so we make sure
pretty white teeth, and I can just lay there and say, bathe me. But that's a great point, right? And that's something that we have to start to think about, right? As mothers, is getting to that next chapter and what that's going to look like for the kids.
Well, there's several chapters that you might go through. I mean, you could be that person that do well, and that never happens. But at the same token, you know.
Absolutely. We want to see our parents age, we want to see our friends age, we want to see everyone age. The thing is that the reality of it is that with age comes things where our body changes and things happen. So we have to be, there's a possibility one day, Mom, that you might not be able to take care of yourself in the same capacity.
You know.
So what then happens, right? You want us to take care of you, or you just said you want a nursing home.
6'4" chocolate, I promise.
All right.
To take care of you. And the point of it is just that we want our parents healthy, we want them to be there. And if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not doing what you should for yourself, then we know that one day we're either going to lose you or you're not going to be at a sustainable level where you can come walk around with us or do things, vacation, where all the things that you love to do, it changes. And so you have to take care of yourself. So we end up being that person that's saying, hey, make sure you do this. Let's walk. Let's do this. You hear your kids ask you all the time to go take a walk.
One thing I wanted to get off to say, basically, to me, this day and age, respect is a very important thing.
Yes.
And I heard someone say that America seemed like the younger people have less respect than some other
I
countries.
agree with that one.
And that is because we're not enforcing the respect
I
level
agree.
upon our young people.
We've taken God out of everything.
Yes.
It's just, it's a whole, it is.
Absolutely.
So we're winding down, but I do have one last question for you, and then I want to get to everyone giving their last minute advice. Really quick. When you become older, and if you need assistance, what child do you think is going to step up?
Oh, that's a big question.
You don't have to answer it now, but I want you to start thinking about that. Out of the 8.
Oh, I don't have to answer
No,
now.
you'll have, or if you want to. I don't know if you want to put it out there because the other 7 may not like it, but
Oh, I should.
you gotta start thinking, right? Of like, who is that one child that you can make your executor of your will that's gonna be able to take care of all of that? So it's just something, again, that we all need to think about. But we're wrapping up, and I want to give last minute advice. So Keyonne, what last minute advice would you have on just speaking to a young lady out there who may be having similar situations that you had with your mom in the past? And she's struggling. What advice would you give her to get through that moment?
In general, what I have learned is everything in life is temporary. Everyone has a temporary phase of whatever is happening in life they go through. We are young temporarily, we are old temporarily, we are always in a phase of life. And if you're in that struggle and you're working through it, not to say it too shall pass, but at one point it will, but I feel like you have to just hone in on making sure that you step back and reflect and say, okay, this relationship, this struggle, am I benefiting this person anymore by the effort I'm putting into it? Or should I step back and take a moment and reflect with myself and then transition into whatever you can give someone else? Because one of the things, I used to be a flight attendant way back when in the world for a little bit of time. And I remember one of the things that we always learn, because you're there for your people's safety, and we learn that you always put your oxygen mask on first before you can put on someone else's oxygen mask. And they always learn your own safety has to come first, or you have to make sure you're good before you can help someone else. And then that concept is really true of life. Like, you have to make sure that you're good, solid, before you can help others. And I think that's what I'm learning for any person, mothers, wives, business women, or just working in the world of life. We have to make sure that we take care of ourselves before we can take care of others. And then you're free to do as you will. So.
And Mama Campbell,
Okay.
what advice would you give to the mothers out there who are struggling with either unrealistic expectations, or they're in this phase of their life where their children are trying to take over?
Okay. One thing I will say, dealing with your children in general, is respect and being grateful. Because, of course, you didn't ask to be born. Nobody did. But you want to appreciate and respect and be grateful the way you was raised. Because when you look at other people's problems and you think, okay, well, maybe I thought I had it bad, but they might have had it better than me. So appreciate the elders, appreciate whoever raised you, you know, whether it was grandma, your parents, or aunts, uncles, just let them know you're grateful. And that said, be respectful. You know, we're living in a generation now where everything is going on, and so you want to respect. I heard something that some people don't deserve respect, but even if they don't, be nice, be kind, you know, and appreciate them and respect them, and they did the best they probably could raising you.
Oh, amen. That is a perfect way to end this podcast, right? Your children, nothing in life comes with a pamphlet unless it's electronic or a car or whatever the case may be. We do the best that we can. So once again, I thank you both. This has been an amazing conversation. Again, I hope our viewers learned something out of this conversation. If not, I have enjoyed it. I have laughed the entire day, so thank you for that. My stomach is killing me. Oh wait, we gotta put my hood on.
Oh,
They
there
gotta
you
see
go.
the whole
Yes.
dress.
Yes.
Get into it.
Fabulousness.
So thank you again for joining and for viewing the Because I Said So podcast, and thank you to both of my co-hosts.
Thank you very much for having
We
us.
missed you, Tyler.
Yes, we missed you, Tyler.